My girlfriend left me for my rich best friend because I didn't buy her designer bags. She didn't know I'd already bought her a house. Ashley and I dated for 4 years, met at a bookstore where she worked. I fell for her instantly. Smart, funny, beautiful. I thought she felt the same. I make good money as a software architect, $140,000 a year. But I don't show it. Drive a regular Toyota. Live in a simple apartment. Why? Because I watched my parents blow through money and die broke. I save 70% of everything I make. Ashley knew I had a decent job, but not the details. I'd buy her gifts I thought meant something. First edition books she mentioned wanting. Cooking classes she talked about. Concert tickets for bands she loved. Nice things, but not luxury things. Maybe $200 here and there. I was saving for something bigger. Nate was different. My friend, since college, he inherited his dad's construction company. Drove a Mercedes, wore designer everything. When we'd all hang out, he'd flash his black card, order expensive bottles, and make sure everyone saw. Ashley's eyes always followed that card. 6 months ago, things changed. Ashley started comparing. Nate bought his girlfriend a Louis Vuitton bag for their 6-month anniversary. We've been together 4 years and you've never bought me anything designer. You said you liked meaningful gifts better than expensive ones, I reminded her. That was before I realized I was dating someone who couldn't afford nice things. That stung, but I kept saving. The house was almost paid for. Just 3 more months. Then I started noticing things. Ashley was working late when her bookstore closed at 8. Her phone was face down at dinner, leaving rooms to take calls. New jewelry, she said, was costume. A Cartier bracelet isn't costume. I knew that bracelet. Nate had shown it to me a month earlier. Thinking of getting this for someone special, he'd said. I confronted Ashley directly. Are you seeing Nate? She laughed in my face. You're paranoid. Just because he's successful doesn't mean I want him. That's not an answer. God, you're pathetic. This jealousy is exactly why I need space. You're threatened by anyone who has more than you. She gaslit me for weeks. I was crazy. I was insecure. I was projecting my financial inadequacy. Maybe if I weren't so cheap, I wouldn't be so suspicious. Maybe if I could give her what she deserved, I'd trust her more. Then Jake, our mutual friend, sent me a photo from Nate's Instagram story. Ashley in Nate's bed wearing his shirt captioned, Sunday mornings hit different. They didn't even hide it. I drove to Nate's house. They were on his couch, her legs across his lap, both laughing at something on his phone, probably laughing at me. I knocked. Ashley answered in Nate's robe. Her face went from surprise to annoyed. What are you doing here? Getting my answer. Nate appeared behind her. No shame. Hey man, we need to talk. No, we don't. Ashley crossed her arms. Look, this is for the best. You're a nice guy, but nice doesn't buy houses or trips to Greece or anything that matters. Nate can give me the life I deserve. And you? I looked at Nate. 4 years of friendship? He shrugged. You can't give her what she needs, bro. I can. Simple math, no hard feelings. When did it start? Ashley rolled her eyes. Does it matter? 2 months? 3? Who cares? I'm 28. I need someone established, not someone who thinks a bookstore gift card is romantic. I was saving... for what? Your retirement? While I'm supposed to wait wearing Target dresses and department store makeup, I want Louis Vuitton now, not some fantasy future. Nate put his arm around her. She deserves someone who can provide properly. That's me. You understand, right? Still friends? I left without answering, but I wasn't done. The house closing was in 2 weeks. I'd put Ashley's name on the deed as a surprise. Planning to propose on the porch of the home we'd own together. Free and clear, no mortgage. 3 bedrooms in the hills overlooking the city. $800,000 value. I called my lawyer. Removing her name was easy since we weren't married yet. Then I called Mia, my realtor. Change of plans. I'm not moving in. Want to list it as a luxury rental instead. 3 days before the closing, I texted Ashley. You were right. I couldn't give you what you deserved. Can we meet one last time? For closure? She agreed, probably expecting me to beg. We met at the coffee shop near the bookstore. She showed up wearing designer everything. Gucci bag, Prada shoes, Cartier bracelet catching the light. You look good, I said. She preened. Nate treats me like a queen. I'm finally living the life I should have been living all along. I'm happy for you. Really, you helped me realize something important. That you should have tried harder? She smirked. That I was saving for the wrong person. I pulled out my phone, showed her the listing Mia had just posted. Beautiful house, right? 3 bedrooms, mountain views, chef's kitchen, everything you said you wanted when we talked about our future. She looked confused. Why are you showing me this? Because I bought it. For you. For us. Paid in full. $800,000. Her face went white. She just stared at the screen for maybe 10 seconds without moving. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. The Gucci bag slid off her lap and hit the coffee shop floor with a thud. I watched her hand start shaking as she held my phone, her perfectly painted nails looking too bright against the white screen. Her other hand went to her throat. She blinked fast like she was trying to clear her vision. The phone almost slipped from her fingers. She caught it and looked at the listing again, scrolling through the photos. The kitchen with the marble counters, the master bedroom with the mountain view, the backyard with the fire pit. All the things she'd pointed out in magazines over the years. She looked up at me and her voice came out as a whisper. She asked how long I'd been planning this. When did I buy it? Why didn't I tell her? Her words got louder with each question. I kept my voice calm and told her I closed on the house 2 months ago, right around the time she started sleeping with Nate. I'd been planning to propose on the front porch. The house was supposed to be ours, free and clear, no mortgage. She put the phone down on the table between us. Her hands were both shaking now. She asked if her name was on the deed. If there was any way to fix this. She said she made a terrible mistake. Her voice had this desperate edge I'd never heard before. I told her my lawyer Tyler removed her name the day after I found out about the affair. The house was already listed as a luxury rental. She could see it right there on the screen. $5,000 a month, professional photos, available immediately. Her face changed. The shock turned into something else. Math happening behind her eyes. She started crying. Real tears, not the pretty kind. Her mascara ran down her face in black streaks. She said she didn't know I had that kind of money saved. If she'd known, things would be different. The barista behind the counter glanced over. Ashley's voice was getting louder. She asked why I never told her about my actual financial situation. Why I let her think I was just scraping by. Other people in the coffee shop were starting to look. I leaned forward and kept my voice low. I told her I wanted someone who loved me for who I am, not what I have. Her reaction right now proved I made the right choice, removing her from the deed. She wasn't crying because she lost me. She was crying because she lost an $800,000 house. She grabbed my arm across the table. Her nails dug into my skin. She begged for another chance, said Nate meant nothing. She'd end it right now if I took her back. We could still have the house, still have everything we planned. I pulled my arm away. I told her she made her choice when she decided a Cartier bracelet was worth more than 4 years together. When she picked a guy with a Mercedes over a guy with a paid-off house. She kept talking, but I stood up. I left a $10 bill on the table for my coffee. Ashley followed me out. Her designer heels clicked on the pavement as she called my name. She was full-on sobbing now, saying she was stupid and materialistic, that I was the best thing that ever happened to her. I stopped in the parking lot and turned around. She almost ran into me. I told her she was right about being materialistic, but she wasn't sorry about hurting me. She was sorry about the consequences of her choices. There's a difference. She reached for me again, but I stepped back. I got in my Toyota and started the engine. She stood there in the parking lot crying. I watched her in my rearview mirror as I drove away. She got smaller and smaller until I turned the corner. I drove straight to my sister Natasha's house. I needed to talk to someone who knew me well enough to tell me if I was being cruel or justified. I pulled into her driveway 20 minutes later. She opened the door before I could knock. She took one look at my face and pulled me inside without asking questions. We sat in her living room. I told her everything. The coffee shop meeting, showing Ashley the house listing, her reaction, the parking lot scene, all of it. Natasha listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a minute. Then she told me Ashley's reaction proved everything I needed to know. Ashley never loved me for the right reasons. The house revelation was perfectly timed to show her true character. Natasha said I dodged a bullet. If Ashley had found out about the house before the affair, she might have stayed. But only because of the money. I would have married someone who valued my bank account more than my heart. That would have been worse than what happened now. My phone started buzzing in my pocket before I even left Natasha's house. I pulled it out and saw 3 texts from Ashley already. Then another one came through, and another. I opened the messages. Long paragraphs filled my screen. She was sorry. She realized what really mattered now. Material things meant nothing compared to what we had. Could we please talk one more time, just to discuss this properly? She made a huge mistake. Nate wasn't the person she thought he was. I was the one who truly cared about her future. The texts kept coming while I stared at the screen. Natasha looked over my shoulder and saw Ashley's name appearing over and over. She reached out and took my phone from my hands. Her finger hovered over the delete button. I nodded. She deleted every message without reading them. 3 more texts came through immediately. Natasha deleted those too. She handed my phone back and told me engaging would only make this harder. Ashley needed to accept this was over. Responding would give her hope that wasn't there. I put my phone on silent and stayed at Natasha's house for another hour. We watched a cooking show and didn't talk about Ashley. My phone screen kept lighting up with new messages, but I ignored them. When I finally drove home around 9 that night, I had 23 unread texts from Ashley. I deleted them all without opening a single one. Around 11, my phone rang. Nate's name appeared on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. I picked up. Nate's voice came through angry and confused, asking what the hell I did to Ashley. She showed up at his place 2 hours ago, completely hysterical about some house. She was crying so hard she could barely talk. Something about me buying a house and hiding money from her. His tone had an edge like I'd done something wrong. like I was the bad guy in this situation. He wanted to know why I never told anyone I had that kind of money saved up. Ashley felt humiliated and deceived. I let him finish his accusation. Then I spoke calmly. I told him Ashley was upset because she chose a guy with a Mercedes over a guy with a paid-off house. That wasn't my problem anymore. She made her choice based on what she could see. Now she knew what she couldn't see and regretted it. But that didn't change anything. Nate started to argue. He said I should have been honest about my finances. Ashley deserved to know what kind of future I could provide. I interrupted him. I asked if he thought honesty mattered coming from the guy who slept with his best friend's girlfriend. He went quiet for a second, then started talking again about how Ashley needed someone who could give her the life she deserved. I hung up while he was mid-sentence. My hand was shaking, but I felt good, like I was finally taking control instead of being a victim. I blocked Nate's number, then I blocked Ashley's number too. I should have done that hours ago. The next morning, Tyler called while I was making coffee. The house was officially listed as of yesterday afternoon. He had good news. 3 potential renters already reached out asking for viewings. The property was in a great area and priced competitively at $5,000 a month, maybe even $5,500 if we found the right tenants. Tyler said that kind of rental income would build my savings even faster than before. I could invest the monthly payments and watch my money grow. The house I bought for the wrong person was going to secure my financial future instead. I thanked Tyler and told him to move forward with the most qualified renters. He said he'd keep me updated on the viewings. I got to work an hour later feeling lighter than I had in months. My coworker Hunter stopped by my desk mid-morning. He looked at me for a second, then asked if something changed. I seemed different, less weighed down. I gave him the basic story. My girlfriend cheated with my best friend. I was secretly saving for a house. She found out after leaving me. Now the house was a rental property. Hunter listened and then said something that stuck with me. Ashley revealing her true priorities now saved me from an expensive divorce later. If she'd found out about the money before the affair, she might have stayed. Then I would have married someone who valued my bank account more than my heart. I'd be stuck in a marriage with someone materialistic and unfaithful. Hunter was right. This was better. Painful, but better. Around lunch, my phone buzzed with a text from Jake. He asked if I was okay. Ashley called him this morning crying about how I humiliated her by hiding money. She made it sound like I was the one who did something wrong. That annoyed me more than I expected. She was spinning this whole thing as me being deceptive, not her being unfaithful and materialistic. I called Jake immediately instead of texting back. He answered on the second ring. I explained the full timeline. I was saving for our future for 4 years, putting away 70% of my income, planning to propose in the house I bought for us. While I was doing that, she was sleeping with Nate for designer bags. She chose a Cartier bracelet over 4 years of loyalty. Now she was mad because she realized what she gave up. Jake apologized for even questioning it. He said he knew something felt off about Ashley's version. Several mutual friends had been asking him what really happened. Everyone was confused about the situation. I told Jake he could share the truth with anyone who asked. I wasn't hiding anything. Ashley cheated. I had been planning our future. She chose wrong. Simple as that. Over the next week, I realized Ashley was calling every mutual friend we had. She told them her version of events. I was financially dishonest. I hid my real income from her. She felt deceived and trapped in a relationship with someone she thought was struggling. Now she looked like the bad guy when really I was manipulative. That narrative bothered me more than I wanted to admit. I knew some people would believe her story. She was good at playing the victim. Hunter noticed me checking my phone more than usual. He asked what was going on. I told him about Ashley's campaign to paint herself as the wronged party. Hunter thought for a minute, then gave me advice. Tell my side to close friends, but don't engage in a broader social media war. The truth would come out naturally. People who knew me would see through her story. People who didn't know me well enough didn't matter anyway. I took his advice. I reached out to 3 friends who knew us best as a couple. I explained what really happened without drama or anger. Just facts. 2 of them immediately saw through Ashley's story. They pointed out that my supposed dishonesty didn't justify her cheating. Saving money wasn't the same as lying. And even if I had been more open about my finances, that didn't excuse sleeping with Nate. The 3rd friend seemed uncomfortable on the phone. He was closer to Nate than to me. He made non-committal sounds and said he didn't want to get involved in the drama. That told me everything I needed to know about where his loyalty was. I thanked him for his time and hung up. Some friendships weren't worth fighting for. 2 days later, my phone rang while I was at my apartment sorting through old photos I needed to throw away. Mia's name showed on the screen. I picked up on the second ring. She sounded excited about something. A young couple wanted to rent the house long-term. Both worked as executives at tech companies downtown. They offered $5,500 a month and wanted to sign a 2-year lease. I didn't hesitate. That rental income would let me save even more aggressively. The house I bought for Ashley was now going to build my future instead of hers. Mia said she'd send over the paperwork and we could do the key handoff at the property in 3 days. I thanked her and hung up feeling satisfied. Every month that house would generate income I could invest. The plan had changed, but the outcome was better than I originally hoped for. The key handoff happened on a Thursday afternoon. I drove to the house for the first time since buying it. Walking up the path felt strange. This was supposed to be where I proposed to Ashley. Instead, I was meeting strangers who'd live in it. The couple arrived right on time. They seemed nice, professional, excited about the house. We did a quick walkthrough so I could show them where everything was. The heating controls, the water shutoff valve, the security system panel. Then the woman mentioned something that made me stop. They'd seen someone at the property yesterday, a woman. She'd been standing on the porch looking through the front windows. They thought maybe she was the previous owner or something. I felt my jaw tighten. Ashley had tracked down the address from the listing. Of course she had. The man asked if that might be a problem, if she had any legal connection to the property. I assured them she didn't. No legal connection whatsoever. Just my ex-girlfriend who made bad choices. They seemed satisfied with that answer. I handed over the keys and left. That night I was watching TV when my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. The message asked why I was letting strangers live in what should be our house. Ashley. She'd gotten a new number to contact me. I read the text twice, then blocked the number without responding. She wasn't going to stop. That much was clear. Every time I thought this was over, she found a new way to insert herself back into my life. But I wasn't going to engage. Blocking her was the only response she'd get from me. I deleted the text thread and went back to my show. She needed to accept this was really finished between us. A few days later, Natasha invited me over for dinner with her husband. I showed up with a bottle of wine and she hugged me at the door. Her husband was grilling chicken in the backyard. We sat on their patio while the sun went down. Natasha kept looking at me with this expression I couldn't quite read. Finally, she said I seemed lighter, more like myself than I'd been in months. I thought about that. She was right. The relationship with Ashley had been weighing on me even before I discovered the affair. All those comparisons to Nate, the constant hints that I wasn't good enough. The feeling that I had to prove something. It had been exhausting. I told Natasha she was right. I felt better than I had in a long time. During dinner, her husband mentioned his friend was recently single. He asked if I was ready to meet new people yet. The question caught me off guard. I appreciated them thinking of me, wanting me to be happy. But I wasn't ready for dating. I told them that honestly. I needed more time to process everything that happened. They understood. Natasha squeezed my hand across the table and said whenever I was ready, they'd be there. The rest of dinner was relaxed. We talked about their upcoming vacation and a movie they'd seen. Normal conversation that had nothing to do with Ashley or Nate or betrayal. It felt good. Work became my focus after that. I threw myself into a major project my team had been assigned. New architecture for a client's entire system. It required long hours and intense concentration. Exactly what I needed. My boss noticed the increased dedication. He pulled me aside one afternoon in the hallway outside the conference room. He said whatever I was going through, he was impressed with how I was handling it professionally. My work quality hadn't dropped at all. In fact, it had improved. I thanked him and said I appreciated the feedback. Work was the one thing I could control completely. No surprises, no betrayals, just code and systems and problems I could actually solve. 2 weeks after the coffee shop confrontation, my phone rang with another unfamiliar number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. A man's voice asked if this was me. I confirmed. He introduced himself as Lewis, Nate's business partner. I was surprised. Lewis and I had met a few times at company events, but we weren't close. He asked if I'd be willing to meet for lunch. He had something he wanted to discuss. I was curious enough to agree. We set a time for the next day at a restaurant downtown. Lewis was already there when I arrived. He stood up and shook my hand. We ordered food and made small talk until the server left. Then Lewis got serious. He said he had no idea about Nate and Ashley until recently. One of the guys at the office had mentioned it, and Lewis confronted Nate directly. What Nate told him was disgusting. He'd bragged about it, framed the whole thing as winning some kind of competition, like taking Ashley away from me was an achievement. Lewis said that conversation made him realize his partner had serious character problems. He'd never seen that side of Nate before. The callousness. The complete lack of respect for friendship or loyalty. It bothered him deeply. Lewis kept talking. He said he was considering buying out Nate's share of the construction company. This situation revealed a side of Nate he couldn't respect. He didn't want to be in business with someone who treated people that way. I appreciated Lewis reaching out. It took courage to have this conversation, but I told him I wasn't interested in being involved in their business decisions. That was between him and Nate. I'd moved on from both of them. Lewis nodded. He said he understood. He just wanted me to know that not everyone thought what Nate did was okay. Some people saw it for what it really was. That conversation stuck with me as I drove back to work. Nate's actions were catching up with him in ways beyond just losing my friendship. Lewis hinted that other business contacts had heard about the situation. People viewed Nate differently now. His reputation was taking hits. The flashy lifestyle and expensive car didn't matter much when people questioned your character. I felt a small sense of satisfaction. Not revenge exactly. Just the natural consequences of his choices finally reaching him. He'd thought taking Ashley was winning. But he'd lost something more valuable than any girlfriend. He'd lost respect. A week went by without hearing from either of them. Then my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. The message said Ashley needed to talk, that she wanted to apologize properly and get closure. I stared at the screen for a minute. Natasha had warned me about this exact situation when we talked 2 days earlier. She said Ashley would try again once reality set in. I should have deleted the message. Instead, I texted back agreeing to meet at the park near downtown. Neutral territory, public place, one last conversation. I drove there the next afternoon and parked near the walking path. Ashley was already sitting on a bench when I arrived. She looked different from at the coffee shop. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. No designer bag in sight, just jeans and a plain sweater. The Cartier bracelet was gone. She stood up when she saw me walking over. Her hands twisted together nervously. I sat down on the opposite end of the bench and waited. She started talking immediately. Said she was sorry for the affair, sorry for how she treated me, sorry for choosing material things over what we had. The words came out fast like she'd practiced them. She admitted she got caught up in status and appearances. Nate's lifestyle made her feel important and valued in a way she thought I couldn't provide. I listened without interrupting. Let her say everything she needed to say. She explained that she felt insecure about our future because I never talked about money or made plans. When I bought small gifts instead of expensive ones, she took it as a sign I couldn't afford better. Nate's flashy spending felt like security, like proof he could take care of her. She realized now that she confused expensive things with being valued, that the Gucci bags and fancy dinners were just objects. They didn't mean he cared about her, they just meant he had money to spend. When she finished talking, she looked at me with red eyes waiting for a response. I told her I accepted her apology. That took courage to say all that. But it didn't change anything between us. What happened couldn't be undone. I hoped she learned something from this about what actually matters in relationships. About not judging someone's worth by their car or their willingness to buy designer labels. She nodded slowly and wiped her eyes. Asked if we could eventually be friends. Maybe in a year or two when things weren't so raw. I was honest. Told her I didn't see that happening. Too much damage. Too much betrayal. We could be civil if we ran into each other, but friendship wasn't possible. She accepted that without arguing. Then she mentioned that things with Nate fell apart fast. Once she wasn't forbidden fruit anymore, he lost interest. The affair was exciting because it was secret. Living together was boring. He was already seeing someone new. Some girl he met at a bar 3 weeks ago. I felt a quick flash of vindication hearing that. Proof that Nate never cared about her specifically. She was just another conquest, another thing to win. But mostly I just felt sad. 4 years of my life ended because she wanted Louis Vuitton instead of a future. We stood up and walked toward the parking lot together. This goodbye felt different from the coffee shop confrontation. More final. Like we were both actually accepting that this relationship was over for good. No more anger, no more drama, just two people who used to love each other going separate ways. I got in my Toyota and drove away. Watched her standing by her car in my rearview mirror getting smaller. I felt lighter somehow, like I'd closed a chapter cleanly instead of leaving pages torn out. The next day at work, Hunter stopped by my desk during lunch. Asked if I wanted to join his basketball league. They played pickup games twice a week at the recreation center. Good group of guys, low pressure, just exercise and hanging out. I hadn't played basketball since college, but I agreed. Figured it would be good to get out of my apartment and do something physical. That Thursday, I showed up at the gym with old sneakers and shorts I found in my closet. Hunter introduced me to the other guys. They were all around my age. Mix of jobs and backgrounds. Nobody asked about my personal life or why I was joining mid-season. We just played. The physical activity felt amazing, running up and down the court, focusing on the game instead of replaying conversations in my head. My body was sore the next day in a good way. Over the next few weeks, basketball became my routine. Tuesday and Thursday nights. I started looking forward to it. The guys knew nothing about my history with Ashley. To them, I was just a regular person who played decent defense and could hit free throws. The anonymity felt refreshing. Nobody looked at me with pity or asked how I was holding up. I was just part of the team. One of the guys invited me to grab beers after a game, and I went. We talked about sports and work and normal things. No drama, no betrayal stories, just casual friendship with people who had no connection to my past. Around the same time, my rental income started coming in. The executive couple paid their first month's rent. $5,500 deposited directly into my account. I logged into my investment account and set up automatic transfers. Every month, the rental income would go straight into index funds. The house that was supposed to be a symbol of love was now a symbol of smart planning and self-respect. My financial philosophy that Ashley mocked was actually working perfectly. I was building wealth steadily while she was probably maxing out credit cards on designer bags. The irony wasn't lost on me. My phone rang one afternoon while I was reviewing code at work. Tyler's name showed on the screen. I stepped into an empty conference room to take the call. He said Ashley had contacted him asking about the possibility of me selling her the house at a discount. She claimed it was originally meant for her, so she should have some right to purchase it. Tyler already told her no on my behalf. The house wasn't for sale at any price and she had no legal claim to it. But he wanted me to know she was still fixating on the property, still trying to find a way to get what she thought she deserved. I thanked Tyler for handling it and told him to block any further contact from Ashley about the house or anything else. He agreed that clean boundaries were important. Then he mentioned something his wife Suzanne said. She's a therapist and Tyler had told her the basic story. Suzanne thought my handling of this situation had been remarkably healthy. Not getting sucked into drama, not seeking revenge, just removing myself and moving forward. That comment stuck with me the rest of the day. I told Tyler to block any further contact from Ashley about the house or anything else. He agreed immediately and said clean boundaries were important after this kind of situation. Then he mentioned something his wife Suzanne said. She's a family therapist and Tyler had told her the basic outline of what happened. Suzanne thought my handling of everything had been remarkably healthy. Not getting pulled into drama, not seeking revenge, just removing myself and moving forward with my life. Tyler said most people in my position would have done something they'd regret later. I appreciated hearing that perspective from someone who dealt with messy situations professionally. The validation helped more than I expected. 3 months passed. The house rental kept generating income. Basketball became a regular part of my routine. Work kept me busy. Life felt different, but not bad. I was grabbing coffee one Saturday morning when I ran into the bookstore manager where Ashley used to work. She recognized me instantly, and her face showed surprise mixed with something like concern. She asked how I was doing, and I told her honestly that I was doing okay. Then she mentioned something I hadn't known. Ashley quit her job right after our breakup. Didn't give notice, just called one morning and said she wasn't coming back. The manager had to scramble to cover shifts. Ashley apparently moved to a different city shortly after, trying to start fresh somewhere new. The manager seemed uncomfortable sharing this information, but said she thought I should know. We talked for a few more minutes outside the coffee shop. She said she always thought Ashley and I were good together when we first started dating, but she admitted something changed over the past year. Ashley became more focused on material things, started comparing herself to customers who came in wearing expensive clothes, made comments about wanting a different lifestyle. The manager noticed the shift but figured it was just Ashley growing restless with retail work. Hearing an outside observer validate what I'd experienced felt important. I wasn't crazy for noticing the changes. Other people saw it too. The manager wished me well and went inside. I sat in my car for a while thinking about that conversation. That night I opened my laptop and started making a list. What did I actually want in a future relationship? Not just attraction and chemistry. Those mattered, but they weren't enough. I wrote down financial compatibility at the top. Someone who understood the value of saving, who didn't measure worth by possessions. Shared life philosophy came next. Similar views on what mattered in the long term. Communication about money and goals. Honesty about expectations. The list grew longer as I thought through what went wrong with Ashley. I'd assumed we wanted the same things because we got along well and enjoyed each other's company. But we never actually talked about deeper values. Never confirmed we were building toward the same future. That was partly my fault. I should have been more open about my financial situation and plans. But her response to the house revelation showed our values were different regardless of communication. A week later, Natasha called and asked if I wanted to meet her friend from work for coffee. She emphasized it was just to practice being social again. No pressure, no expectations of romance, just a casual conversation with someone new. I agreed mostly because Natasha had been so supportive, and I didn't want to seem like I was hiding from life. The coffee date happened on a Thursday afternoon. Her friend was nice. We talked about work and hobbies and normal things. Pleasant conversation, but no spark. I appreciated that Natasha's approach was low stakes, not trying to force me into dating before I was ready, just getting me back out there in a comfortable way. I texted Natasha afterward and thanked her for thinking of me. At work, things were going well. My focus had increased over the past months. I threw myself into projects and delivered results ahead of schedule. My boss called me into his office one afternoon and told me I was promoted to senior architect. Significant raise, more responsibility. He said my increased focus and maturity over recent months contributed to the decision. The team had noticed my dedication. I realized the breakup, while painful, had pushed me to invest more energy in my career. Without the relationship taking up mental space, I'd channeled that energy into work. The promotion felt like validation that I was moving forward in concrete ways. I celebrated by taking Natasha and her husband to dinner at a nice restaurant downtown. Thanked them for supporting me through everything. Natasha joked that Ashley did me a favor by showing her true colors before I married her. Her husband agreed and said anyone who valued designer bags over genuine connection wasn't worth my time. We talked about the promotion and my plans for the new role. It felt good to focus on positive things happening in my life instead of dwelling on what went wrong. Natasha mentioned she was proud of how I'd handled everything. Not getting bitter or angry, just processing and moving on. The next week, Hunter stopped by my desk at work. He'd seen Nate at a bar over the weekend. Said Nate looked rough. Apparently the business buyout with Lewis went through. Nate lost the construction company his dad built. His reputation in the industry took a hit too. People heard about what happened with Ashley and me, viewed him differently. Hunter said Nate was drinking alone and seemed pretty down. I felt a moment of sympathy. Then I remembered him sitting on that couch with his arm around Ashley, telling me it was simple math, no hard feelings. The sympathy faded. Actions have consequences. Nate chose to betray a friendship, and it cost him more than he probably expected. That night, I logged into my financial accounts and made some changes. The rental income was coming in steadily. The promotion meant a significant raise. I decided to increase my savings rate to 75%, doubling down on the financial philosophy Ashley had mocked. Building wealth felt more meaningful now, not just a safety net, an expression of my values, proof that living below your means and planning for the future actually works. I set up automatic transfers, adjusted my budget. The numbers looked good, better than good. I was building real financial security while Ashley was probably still chasing the next designer purchase. A few days later, I got an email from the rental couple. They loved the house, wanted to extend their lease for another year, offered to go up to $6,000 a month. I accepted immediately, replied within an hour. The house that was supposed to be a symbol of love and commitment was serving a different purpose, a good purpose, generating income, providing a home for people who appreciated it, building my financial future in ways I hadn't originally planned. I felt grateful that things worked out this way. The house wasn't sitting empty as a reminder of what I lost. It was actively contributing to my life moving forward. A few days later, I found myself browsing Reddit late at night and stumbled on the financial independence subreddit. People posted about their savings rates and investment strategies without shame. Someone shared a photo of their 10-year-old sedan with $300,000 in index funds. The comments celebrated their discipline instead of mocking their car choice. I created an account and started reading daily. These people got it. They understood that wealth building meant living below your means and investing the difference. Nobody bragged about designer purchases or expensive dinners. Instead, they shared spreadsheets tracking their path to early retirement. One guy drove a 15-year-old Honda and retired at 40 with $2 million saved. Another woman lived in a small apartment while maxing out retirement accounts and building rental property income. Their priorities matched mine perfectly. I posted my own story without names or details, just the basics about saving 70% of my income and buying a rental property young. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of comments congratulating my discipline and asking questions about my strategy. Several people messaged me directly wanting to connect. One message stood out from someone with the username Financially Free Teacher. She lived in my city and wanted to chat about investment strategies. We started messaging back and forth about index funds and savings rates. She taught elementary school and made $45,000 a year, but saved 40% of it. Her discipline impressed me given her modest salary. We talked about life goals beyond just money. She wanted to travel and maybe open a bookstore someday. No pressure or flirting, just interesting conversation with someone who thought similarly. We messaged for weeks before she suggested meeting for coffee. I agreed, but kept expectations low given my recent breakup. 4 months had passed since the coffee shop confrontation with Ashley. I realized one morning that I'd gone 3 whole days without thinking about her or Nate. When they did cross my mind, it felt distant and detached. The angry knot in my chest had dissolved completely. Work kept me busy, and the rental income kept building my wealth. My social life expanded through the basketball league and online community. The breakup that felt devastating in the moment had created space for better things. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake saying he'd run into Ashley at a restaurant downtown. She'd asked about me, apparently, dating someone new, but Jake said it seemed shallow and performative. Lots of Instagram photos and expensive dates, but no real connection. He wanted to know if I cared about updates. I texted back that I genuinely didn't need to hear about Ashley's life anymore. Appreciated him checking, but I'd moved on completely. Jake responded with a thumbs up and said he was glad I was doing well. That exchange confirmed what I already knew. Ashley belonged to my past now. I booked a solo trip to the mountains the next day. Something I'd always wanted to do, but Ashley hated camping and outdoor activities. A week alone, hiking and reading sounded perfect. I packed my tent and sleeping bag and drove 3 hours to a remote campground. The first night under the stars felt like breathing fully for the first time in months. No phone service meant no distractions, just me and the wilderness and my thoughts. I hiked 10 miles the second day and finished 2 books by the campfire that night. The solitude revealed parts of myself I'd compromised during the relationship. I actually enjoyed quiet time alone, preferred simple meals cooked on a camp stove over fancy restaurants, valued experiences over possessions. Ashley would have hated every minute of this trip. That realization didn't make me sad anymore. Just confirmed we'd wanted different things all along. When I returned from the mountains, I had coffee with Financially Free Teacher, whose real name was Shayna. We met at a quiet cafe and talked for 3 hours straight. The conversation flowed easily from investment strategies to life philosophies to travel dreams. She told me about teaching 3rd graders and saving aggressively despite her modest salary. Drove a 12-year-old Civic and lived with a roommate to keep expenses low. Her discipline and clarity about priorities impressed me deeply. But beyond the shared money values, I felt actual chemistry. She laughed at my jokes and asked thoughtful questions about my life. We discovered we both loved hiking and reading and quiet weekends at home. When we left the cafe, I asked if she wanted to get dinner sometime. She smiled and said yes. We started dating casually over the next few weeks. I was upfront about my recent breakup and not wanting to rush into anything serious. Shayna appreciated the honesty and shared that she was also focused on building her own financial foundation before combining lives with anyone. We went hiking on weekends and cooked simple dinners at her apartment. She never asked about designer bags or expensive restaurants. Instead, she wanted to know about my thoughts on early retirement and investment allocation. Our dates cost maybe $30 total and felt more meaningful than any fancy dinner I'd bought Ashley. The relationship developed slowly and naturally without pressure or games. 6 months after revealing the house to Ashley, I took stock of my life. The rental property generated $5,500 monthly that went straight into investments. My promotion at work came with a $20,000 raise. I'd increased my savings rate to 75% and watched my net worth climb steadily. But the financial progress wasn't even the best part. Shayna and I had been dating for 2 months, and it felt right in ways my relationship with Ashley never had. We shared actual values about what mattered in life. She understood that driving a Toyota didn't mean I was broke. Appreciated thoughtful gestures over expensive gifts. Wanted to build wealth together slowly, rather than spend it on status symbols. Work was going great, with the senior architect role giving me more responsibility and satisfaction. My social life included the basketball league and online community friends who got my priorities. Everything had shifted in positive directions I couldn't have imagined 6 months earlier. Natasha noticed the change when I stopped by for dinner one evening. She commented that I seemed genuinely happy rather than just recovered from the breakup. Her observation hit home because she was right. This wasn't about getting over Ashley anymore. I'd actually built a better life than the one I'd lost. What Ashley meant as an insult about me not being able to provide had revealed something important. I could provide very well, just not for someone who valued the wrong things. Shayna valued the right things: financial security and shared experiences, and building a future based on substance rather than appearance. I felt grateful now for how everything had unfolded. The betrayal hurt deeply at the time, but it showed me who people really were before I made permanent commitments. If Ashley hadn't left, I might have married her and spent years with someone who didn't share my actual values. If Nate hadn't betrayed our friendship, I might have kept trusting someone who saw relationships as competitions to win. The house I bought for the wrong person became the foundation for building the right life. Every month, the rental income grew my wealth and confirmed my financial philosophy worked. Every date with Shayna reinforced that finding someone with shared values mattered more than surface compatibility. Every conversation in my online community reminded me that plenty of people understood the difference between looking rich and being rich. I was excited about where this path led next, not in a rushed or desperate way, just genuinely curious about the future I was building with intention and discipline. The life Ashley rejected was exactly the life I wanted, and now I was living it with someone who wanted it too.